Hi there, and welcome to my Brain Health Cooking Kitchen. I'm Diana Liz, and tonight I am cooking Sicilian pasta with sardines. This is an incredible recipe because one, it's easy, it's quick, it's delicious, it's affordable, it's neurotrophic, it offers amazing brain support, and it also assists with glucose management. What more could you ask for in a recipe? I grew up eating sardines in the kitchen with my grandfather. It was a very comforting moment that we shared together. And I know that many people don't have the same feelings for sardines. And this recipe, you can substitute any fish that is high in omega and low in mercury. I have enjoyed this book by Lisa Mosconi, and I'm always interested in what brain researchers have to say about nutrition. And she has an incredible assessment that is worth the price of the book. The assessment is how brain nutritious is your diet really? Lisa Mosconi includes gluten in her book as a nutritious food. The reason for that, she says that there are only a handful of studies on gluten on PubMed, and they're inconclusive. I follow the work of Dale Bredesen. I have studied his protocol with the Institute of Functional Medicine, and his protocol is to enhance cognition and reverse cognitive decline. And I explained his stand on gluten in my pizza recipe in a section called the glunk on gluten. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start our Sicilian pasta recipe by substituting the pasta with zucchini. It is high in B6 and it helps to regulate glucose. It's also high in zeaxanthin and lutein, which helps with light exposure. And today, as we look into our phones and into our computers, blue light exposure is something that we need to protect against. So this is the spiralized zucchini. Cut it a couple of places, and we're going to set this aside. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to substitute the breadcrumbs. And I use nuts, and in this I have almonds and hazelnuts. Sometimes I use pecans, and I love pine nuts, and I'm going to toast the pine nuts and warm up the nuts and then set them aside. It's the shallots. And it calls for a small onion, and I would prefer to use 2 shallots, but I did an earlier presentation on fennel and mackerel, and we know how nutritious fennel is, so I'm going to add a fennel and 1 shallot. The work of Tim Spector, one of the things that in a book that he published recently is that variety is, and actually the word he uses is diversity, is the most important element in nutrition. So need to rotate onions and leeks and red onions and white onions and yellow onions, and to get a diversity, because we are not only feeding ourselves, we are feeding 39 trillion organisms that live in and on our body. And one thing we need to do, we're not going to throw the fronds away. We're going to add them to the recipe at the end. So I'm going to get the core out. And it has a rather large core. Sometimes it has small cores. I'm going to do this shaved to make it quicker to cook. These look pretty good. I'm going to leave them on for just one more minute. Garlic is a superfood, and I don't like to throw any of it away, except this vellum on the end. The shallots and the fennel are cooking for 5 to 7 minutes until they are caramelized. And then I will add the garlic for 1 minute. Now the sardines, like all fish, should be wild caught, because we are the end of the food chain and we eat whatever the animal before us ate. So if we want a healthy and fish oil from the fish, they have to have eaten algae. So I'm going to drain these because I do not use the olive oil that's in them to cook with. I know some recipes ask you to drain the oil into the pan, but I don't do that. So I'm going to drain these and I'll be back. I'm going to trim some of these. They're they're not very, I like them when they're a little bit longer, but they'll do. The fronds have nutrition, and we try not to throw nutrition away. So what you do next is we are going to add the sardines and break them up. One tin would only be 2 ounces per person, and so therefore I'm adding 2 cans. So because each can is 4 ounces. So this way each person gets 4 ounces. And since the sardines don't have to be cooked, we're going to add the zucchini in. And we are just going to warm it, because if it gets too hot, it's going to release all the liquid and it will be just too watery. For about 4 minutes. I'm going to add the chili peppers. That was 3 minutes and 30 seconds to warm this up. We added the nuts, and I'm adding the parsley and the fronds from the fennel, and capers, which are very, very high in antioxidants. And the most important ingredient in this recipe is the zest of 1 lemon with equal parts of lemon and extra virgin olive oil. So I've already added the olive oil. I'm just going to add the lemon, and this makes all the difference in this recipe. And you toss it, and that's it. That's the whole recipe. Dinner was a huge success, and the first things Paul said, "This isn't your sardine recipe, is it?" I said, "Yes, it is." He says, "Well, it doesn't taste the least bit fishy." I went, "Yes!" That was wonderful. And I had not ever added the ½ teaspoon of pepper flakes, and they added a really delightful warmth to the salad. The fennel was like a blank canvas. It added volume and nutrition, because we know that fennel is a super blog, and I've talked about it in other blogs in the past. And the capers added a little burst of flavor, so it was just a delightful experience, the sardine recipe. I want to explain a little bit about why. Why do I talk so much about omega-3? Why don't I ever talk about omega-6? And how, why is fish so important? Well, in nature, Omega-6 and omega-3 are frequently found together, and usually there's twice as much omega-6 as omega-3. And the reason I don't talk about it very much is because most of my recipes are focused on lowering inflammation. And when we are trying to get a healthier brain, inflammation is of extreme importance, and so omega-3 becomes more important. But we also need to know about omega-6. Very, very reliable sources estimate that the standard American diet has 14 to 30 times more omega-6 than omega-3. And omega-6 is linked to asthma, coronary disease, some forms of cancer, autoimmune and neurological diseases like Alzheimer's, obesity, depression, dyslexia, and hyperactivity. So we need omega-6, but we don't need 14 to 30 times the amount. In the description of this blog, I'm going to place a list of commonly used omega-6s in processed food. Please take the time to read the labels and know what it is that you're consuming. The foods and the plan that I use is from the Institute of Functional Medicine MITO food plan. And MITO is short for mitochondrial. So who would this recipe be for? These recipes that I present, they are for people who want peak performance. Someone who's had a traumatic brain injury. People who carry the alipoprotein epsilon 4, APOE4 gene. This gene is associated with Alzheimer's, and it causes, the body produces more inflammation, just a very strong response of inflammation. And so it not only associated with Alzheimer's, but it's also frequently found in people who have sudden cardiac infarctions. And this is inflammation of the heart. So someone with a heart condition might also want to consider the MITO Institute of Functional Medicine MITO food plan. If you're pre-diabetic or diabetic, have brain fog, depression, or anxiety, you might find the MITO food plan very helpful. And I'm so excited to share that I turned 70, and I had my blood work done about a month ago, and I finally got the results, and I am no longer pre-diabetic. I've been pre-diabetic for 5 years, and today I am no longer pre-diabetic. My A1C was 5.4. And that's great. And there's another very important marker. It's homocysteine. And homocysteine is normal from 0 to 15. But the researcher, Dr. Ben Lynch, who does research on gene SNPs, which I carry a gene SNP, and Paul has 2 gene SNPs. He talks about the importance of hitting the magic number 7. And I'm not at 7 yet, but I'm 8.9. And that is a big shift from where I was to 8.9. So I'm almost at 7. And he does not advise a homocysteine of 15, because we know that an average shoe size is from size 6 to size 13. And you know, I can't wear a size 13 or a size 6. So the magic number that we strive for in homocysteine is number 7. So if you have any successes with my food plan, and I hope that you will share with others who may be experiencing pre-diabetes or brain fog, anxiety, or depression, because food is medicine, and it's available to us, and we can use it for our good, or we can also harm ourselves. So I am Diana Liz, and thank you for joining me for Brain Health Cooking. Bon appetit for a brighter brain.